All right, let's get across those headlines and more. Let's bring in now the national editor for The Australian, Dennis Shanahan. Well, I've got to start yet again, Dennis Shanahan, with his immigration detainee mess. I think they're bleeding on it out there in the real world. It's the stuff that's on the back of Talkback most afternoons, most mornings. It's all the way through the papers. They think it's a bit of an obsession in Canberra of the Conservative side of politics, but not out there in the real world. This is what people are concerned about.
I think people are concerned about this, and they have been for a while. We're heading into almost the 6th month of this crisis, the chaos and confusion over the release of immigration detention detainees, and nothing has changed. The ministers are unable to provide answers. We have seen no remedies, no preventive action being taken from the government, and the same blame being apportioned, saying it's the High Court or it's the coalition. Oh, it was the coalition government that didn't change the visa laws when they were in place. The visa laws introduced by the Gillard government. Now, this is just it's so slowing, it's agonising to watch. And yet all we see is once again Andrew Giles talking about his impotence, saying, well, we want to do this and that's what we're going to try and do, but we actually fear it's not going to work. I think that this is an unending problem for the government, and all they can do is leave Giles there every day to take a hit for the team, and in the meantime, the public is becoming increasingly concerned.
Yeah, but the longer they leave Giles there, the more that the Prime Minister's the one who looks impotent, because in the end, he chooses the team he puts on the field. He's given this bloke the big task of dealing with our borders. He's clearly not up to it. As you say, it's been 6 months of incompetence. I know that the Liberals like to call him hapless and hopeless. I think he's criminally incompetent. It's worse than just that. So how does the Prime Minister not see he's got to move this guy out and put a tough nut in there? Or is it about factional numbers inside the Labor Party? I mean, why is he still there?
Well, I think one of the things you have when you have an ongoing problem that is going to go for a few more months yet, if you start to put people in, you burn them up. So what you do is you leave Giles there as a charred memory of political competence, and you wait until it is clear, and then you move him, and he takes all of the problems with him, and the new person comes in untarnished and can actually start a new regime.
Dennis, let me jump in there.
I think that's
I agree with that. I agree with that as a strategy if you can see the destination point, right? So you know that you've got legislation coming in, or that there'll be a decision in your favour. If you can see the end point, you leave him there, basically the carcass in the tree, until such time as you cut him down. So let him sop it all up. The difficulty is they can't fashion a way through this. They've got an additional, 40 lawyers or nearly 50 lawyers brought into the Solicitor General's office. They've got additional cases in the High Court. They've got legislation that they haven't even used yet. He couldn't answer questions today about how many of this additional cohort of 300 plus might be people with custodial sentences for some pretty terrible crimes. I can't see how they get out of this. I mean, they need a new bloke or a woman in charge to turn this around. I think they're bleeding on it.
Oh, indeed. But I think for the time being, we'll continue to see Giles bleed.
All right, well, long may that continue if you want to vote for the other side of politics. Talk to me about what we saw in Queensland on the weekend. We had that local council, although it's a very big council for people outside of Brisbane. The Brisbane City Council's huge footprint, unlike other states, and those two by-elections, huge swings there. Adrian Schrinner, of course, the Liberal LNP member, retained as Lord Mayor. But these swings, Anastasia Palaszczuk's seat of Inala, a 30% swing away from Labor. Ipswich West, 18.5% swing to the LNP. What did you make of the weekend, and how much of this might transfer in terms of broader ramifications to federal Labor?
Well, look, you always have to be careful about transferring particularly local government elections and state government elections to federal government. You do see from time to time states voting out one federal coloured government and introducing the opposite colour, Liberal, Labor, Labor, Liberal. So it does happen at times. But I think what the problem for Labor here is the size of these swings. After all, it was a swing in a by-election in a state seat in New South Wales, the seat of Penrith, that actually led to the downfall of Kevin Rudd as the leader of the Labor Party. And I think that these swings are so great in Queensland, which is a key state, where Labor is talking about not only the need, but the hope of winning 5 extra seats. I think that this would kill off any of that hope. And it would also make it clear that we're going to see an election next year, because it would be unlikely that after the October election, which will see the defeat of the Queensland government, that Anthony Albanese would want to go to the polls within just a few weeks of that. So I think it is bad news for federal Labor. It certainly makes it tougher for them, but you can't make too much of a state result in a federal election.
No, you're spot on, but you're right to also make the point that when Queensland swings, it swings big. And for the PM to get a second term, he needs to do well in Queensland. So I think the location of these results on the weekend will be what worries Labor. Talk to me about that extraordinary interview by Jenny George in The Australian on the weekend. I mean, she's making it clear she's not a Liberal, she's not voting for the other side or anything like that, but she is always, she says, a union woman. She still is a union woman, but the Labor Party has left her, and her concern hinges on particularly the climate issue and the way in which renewables and fossil fuels being taken out of regional communities is impacting jobs. Her focus is the worker in these blue-collar roles, and a lack of confidence that this nirvana of green jobs in the future will materialise. For Labor people to go public like this is rare. What did you make of it?
Oh, well, look, I'm a great fan of Jenny George. She's a great letter writer in The Australian, and I'm always glad to see one of her letters, because she deals with numbers. She analyses things, and then she'll say, well, hold on, you're promising 640,000 new jobs as you go to a carbon-free economy. But how many carbon jobs are going to be lost as a result? And then you do the sums, and then you talk about the jobs. I think that the most important thing that Jenny George said in that interview in the Australian on the weekend was that the Labor movement, OUR Labor movement, as far as the trade unions are concerned, is a different animal to the Labor Party, OR political party, and that she stands for the workers and the unions, where what she can see are professional politicians, and she was a member of Parliament, of course. What she can see is professional politicians pushing ideology and losing contact with their workers, the real workers, the blue-collar workers, the Labor supporters who have for so long supported Labor through the union movement.
You're right, she's as smart as a whip. Just quickly, Paul Keating has been approached, or I'm not sure the origins of this likely meeting, but it is now confirmed it will go ahead. He will meet, former PM Keating will meet with the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Sydney this week. Keating, of course, a staunch critic of AUKUS, actually quite a critic of Penny Wong. She is the Foreign Minister. She will meet with Wang Yi herself. This is a bit unusual. What do you make of it? How troublesome will this be internally for the government?
I think it'll be a great deal of trouble for the government. I think China realises that. China knows how to cause trouble while looking to be, oh, look, we're in Australia and we're working together. And then they'll promote Paul Keating, his anti-government stance on AUKUS, his pro-China stance as far as trade and the region is concerned. And this will actually only encourage China to say, oh, look, and today we've seen the Trade Minister say, oh, look, the US isn't our closest ally. Well, this will only encourage propaganda from China to use to split the Labor Party and to maintain a media presence for Wang Yi in his time here, and then to continue to say, look, you see, the different views. Here's a former Prime Minister saying that, the current Labor Prime Minister's not doing a good enough job. This will be a propaganda coup for the Chinese, and we will see much more of it. It will overshadow, in immediate terms, the visit and what the Foreign Minister is going to do, both Foreign Ministers are going to do on a bilateral stage.
Thank you, Dennis Shanahan.